You're listening to Passing Time, a Detroit Lions podcast. We're one pride and all grit, with a passion for Detroit Lions football. Whether you're between meetings, between classes, sitting in traffic, or just relaxing at home, if you have time to pass, pass it with Passing Time. Detroit Lions Talk.
Welcome back, everybody. You're passing time with us, a Detroit Lions podcast. I'm Rob.
I'm Brian.
Episode 46, Brian.
46.
Season 2, episode 9. We have a lot to talk about. This is going to kind of put a bow on the big-time free agency talk from the offseason. Future podcasts between now and the draft, we're going to be draft nuts, right?
Diving into the draft. Who are the Lions going to take? What does it look like? Mock drafts, all the things.
This is going to be a good one. So we appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in, making our podcast one of your weekly listens. We encourage you, we beg you, we plead with you to please go like, subscribe, follow.
Do all the things. Follow us on all the socials and keep us going on this algorithm. So
this episode, we're going to dive into depth charts, what the Lions have, what they're missing. We're going to spend a lot of time breaking down the rare Brad Holmes interview that he went about an hour in depth. Had a lot of pearls of wisdom in there.
Yeah, the Lions collection, he said some gems, and it offered some insight to what they're looking at, what the Lions are looking at in free agency and the draft, and so on and so forth. So.
Bill, welcome back, Bill.
Yeah, Bill's got some things on the docket that he would love to have shared, and we're gonna have to continue to walk that man away from the ledge. So,
okay, all right. Well, there's a little teaser there, but we're not all on the ledge, are we, Brian?
No, we might be able to banter, and we might be able to disagree on the direction and where we are as Lions fans and what we want from this Lions team and system and the ownership and the general manager, but ultimately we're still in belief that things are going to continue to rise in the near future. So
I'm curious, and let us know how you feel. Are you Team Rob? Are you Team Brian? Or are you Team Bill? On the outside looking in.
Sure.
Please comment. Let us know how you feel. Obviously my glass is a little bit more full than Brian's, and Brian's is quite a bit more full than Bill's.
Yeah, that seems accurate.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Yep.
So into segment 1, Lions new additions. We're going to talk. We touched on it last podcast. We're talking about the free agent signings. There's been more.
Yep. I mean, if you look at what the Lions have done in years past and what they're again doing this year is they're filling those holes as best they can so that they can approach a draft in a way that they can take best player available. They can find their guy, and they can feel really good about bringing him in. It doesn't pigeonhole them into a certain need, even though we can definitely agree that there's still some needs.
Yeah. All right. So let's play a game.
Okay.
All right. I say a name, and you give me, the first 3 sentences. Kind of give me, all right, positionally.
Okay.
Who they're replacing that's not coming back for the Lions.
Sure.
And tell me if it's an upgrade or a downgrade, and kind of just put a little bit of the B Mike's flair to it.
Where we got to go and what we got to do. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So this is going to be rapid fire, keep you engaged here.
Yeah.
First, we'll start with Tyler Conklin.
Tyler Conklin's a great addition to the tight end group in the Detroit Lions. I would say that he's an upgrade from a Shane Zylstra. He is going to compete with Brock Wright at that tight end 2/tight end 3 spot. He's going to allow us to be more comfortable going into a 12 or even maybe 13 personnel.
Okay. All right. Roger McCreary.
Roger McCreary, I like the depth that he brings. He is going to be an Amik Robertson type slot guy with some versatility to maybe play some edge corner or even drop back into a safety role. But I'm going to see a bit of a scheme adjustment with Kelvin Shepherd here moving forward, and I'm going to see a little bit more of that third defensive back versus third linebacker.
All right, I like it. Chip on the shoulder.
Yep.
undrafted free agent, right? Out of college, is that right?
And he's played several years with the Rams, and that's not a bad thing to have some experience, playing deep into playoffs and having a winning attitude. So
yeah, all right. DJ Wonnum.
The Davenport replacement. Injuries still have plagued DJ a little bit. He may even be a little bit of that Al-Kahim Muhammad replacement. I see him more as that edge setter, that run stopper. He may have a handful of sacks, but I don't see him as a third down pass rush specialist.
Well, AQM, all he wanted to do was get after the quarterback, right?
And that's what he was good at, right?
And Davenport, all he wanted to do was
get hurt,
sit on the sidelines in sweatpants. So
I was wrong about him. Let me tell you what.
We were wrong about him. We were wrong about him.
But hopefully, DJ Wonnum, who has had an injured past, we have some hopium in regards to bringing him in. He has the ability to be more of an asset to our defense than AQM. He's going to play more downs when he's healthy. He is a more versatile defensive end, but he's not the guy that we're hoping that we can pair Hutch up with and see like a big return from. So
yeah, I like that. Next one was an interesting one, kind of flew under the radar for a lot of people, but Greg Dortch out of Arizona.
I like Greg Dortch. I think that was a great signing. He has that Petsing tie.
Wide receiver.
Yep, he's that Khalif Raymond replacement. He does some specials as well, so he's going to be involved in the return game. And I do believe that he's going to be an asset to this team. He's going to be able to fill that wide receiver 4, maybe even slot, maybe even tie into some of that special team stuff. So,
all right, Damone Clark.
So, Damone Clark, linebacker. He is a guy coming out of Houston. He's somebody that I really like, but he's not your Anzalone replacement. He's not going to be a guy that you're going to see on the field a ton, even though he has an upside to maybe fill some roles there. I think he's more of a Grant Stewart replacement than he is maybe an Anzalone replacement.
I like that comparison. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. Miles Adams, which is not necessarily a new addition, but
I think he just provides depth. He was primarily a practice squad guy last year. We still need guys in the interior in order to back up a Tyleek and McNeil, and we're going to Levi. We need more guys there. We need depth. We need to fill out that roster, and he's one of those guys that do that.
All right, here's an intriguing one: Payton Turner.
You know what? He's a guy that has a probably pretty high ceiling, but pretty low floor. Right? He is a guy that that the Saints took a reach on in the first round a couple years ago and hasn't panned out.
Yeah.
So maybe a change of scenery, maybe a change of scheme, maybe there's some things there that we can kick the tires on, and the contract was worthwhile 1 year and not that much money in order to bring him in to see what he can do.
I think this is your Muhammad replacement because he's all gas, no brakes.
Yep.
Get after quarterback, and if he could be a third down specialist, that would be a great signing, right? Like that, if you can kind of turn him into that. And
if you can find something from him, anything from him is going to be worthwhile in the Lions. And so, it's worth a signing. He's still not the name or skill set that I'm hopeful for that they can bring in at some point in free agency or address in the draft. So
okay. Teddy Bridgewater.
I love that one. Yeah. I love Teddy. Teddy coming back as that backup QB. I do think that raises that floor in the QB2 spot. He's better than Kyle Allen, and I love him back in Detroit. So
all right, here's one that I think also doesn't get enough love. Ben Bartch.
I liked this signing. I think that he is going to be a backup, or at least a competition at that interior O-line. He's going to be somebody who is going to push Christian Mahogany or even Miles Frazier into having to grow. like it's going to force and put some pressure on those guys in order to be better because we gave basically Christian Mahogany that spot last year with very little competition, and I don't think he grew enough throughout the year. I know he dealt with some injuries and so on, but this is going to force him to be even better if he's going to win that spot. And I'm not opposed to Ben winning that spot either if he so does. So what it does here, it doesn't necessarily raise the ceiling as much. It does raise the floor.
A tremendous amount, man.
Yep.
And we didn't really understand like how naked the Lions were last year until the injuries started happening with old age and starters, and then youth and inexperience on the backups. Like it was like we didn't see that, and it really showed its ugly head the whole year.
And if you see a theme throughout this, it's those one-year deals for younger guys, right? Those 26, 27-year-olds that are now going to run around in a Lions uniform, at least through training camp. But hopefully that young age brings some youth and some health and the ability to compete. So
Jake Bates,
love bringing Jake Bates back finally. Like he signed on the dotted line. I think that ink is now dried, and we can breathe easy in regards to that kicker spot.
So without overlapping too much, we're gonna get more into in segment kind of 3 on what Brad Holmes says and why that we've lost some key guys and brought some different guys in a way that they're kind of working the cap. And you might have heard that interview. You're going to hear our own kind of interpretation of that.
Sure.
But let's talk a little bit about, I think the depth chart is real important to keep kind of honing in on each and every week.
So we talked about a little bit last time we chatted, and there was some vast holes, right? And we're starting to narrow those down. I mean, there's still holes such as left tackle / right tackle, depending on what we're going to see in the draft or even in the future free agency. But that is one of the spots on the offense that I would say is glaring right now to address. And I know that you've talked about a little off the pod about Borum being a guy that can fill that role and we can move forward and feel good about. And I guess I don't feel nearly as good.
Yeah, it's good to disagree. More banter later on, but if you listen to the Brad Holmes interview, he referenced multiple times that Borum is a starting right tackle caliber player, right? And he also referenced Panay is a guy that can play left tackle. He's versatile. He can play all spots on the line.
And that's where Brad and I can agree.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So the worry, though, that I have about Larry Borum is the fact that we had to put in a Hutch rule last year during training camp when Miami came to town and we trained with them, and Larry Borum was getting spun around like a top when we all know how Aiden Hutchinson's season went. It was good, but it wasn't great, right? And when Larry Borum is the guy that now we're going to rely on, it definitely makes me worry.
That's fair criticism, right?
Yep.
So a lot of depth in the interior now.
I love the interior that we've created. I think that it's, again, like I said, we raised the floor. We see Coyote Awashika kind of moving on to the Chargers, and we didn't bring back, the Tristan Colognes of the Lions of last year. I think we've improved at least our depth in those positions.
Yeah. So. Some switching lines, going to the defensive line. Do you see any glaring holes here?
Yes.
What do you see, B. Mike?
Okay. The edge is still a hole. And if you want to say that DJ Wonnum is the guy that we want across from Aiden Hutchinson, I would argue that, sure, he's a great depth piece, but he's not a great starter across from Aiden Hutchinson. We need someone there that can get after the quarterback and do it in the way that the Lions want, which means that we're going to stop the run first.
Yeah.
And we don't have that guy right now.
Okay. Potentially, there's a couple of guys not fitting the mold that you talked about earlier, where it's the 26, 27-year-old guy looking for the 1-year deal, second contract. But it's more of like the 35, 36-year-old guys out there that are probably looking for okay, who are teams going to draft? and where can I fit myself into a roster?
And the crazy thing is I felt like we sat here last year at this time and talked about this, hoping that we would bring back guys that would fit that role, right? That we were just hoping that we were going to sign that one guy that may have been on our team last year or 2 years ago. That we were just going to hope that maybe after training camp he'd come in.
Can you say the name?
What's his name?
Smoochie.
So Darius Smith was a guy that we were just continually hoping would come back to the Lions and fill that role, and he never did.
And maybe for good reason, because he went to the Eagles and he played about 3 weeks, and he was gone.
Right, and that's true, but...
Put him on a milk carton, Brian.
You just wonder if it would have been different had he been able to hang out in a place that he wanted to be, rather than forced to be a place that he really didn't want to be.
That's interesting. Okay,
yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, it's a weak take.
Okay, fair.
Linebacker. I feel like we're pretty solidified in 2 out of 3 spots.
I would say that right now Jack Campbell is definitely solidified. Derek Barnes, his role, I'm interested to see what Kelvin Shepherd wants to do with him. If he changes what he saw last year. We talked a lot last year leading into the season about him being possibly a pass rusher and possibly being able to be a little bit more versatile, and he didn't show that. Right? I don't know if that schematically didn't show that, or if that didn't show that based on his skill set, but he just didn't show that. So, and now losing Alex Anzalone, which was one of our more cover-based linebackers, are we going to replace that with our nickel corners? Are we going to replace that with another linebacker? Ultimately, I don't believe that Malcolm Rodriguez is the answer there, but we still need some, I guess, some depth there.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Cornerback, seems like, let's just say TA's back. It seems like it's an adequate room.
I love what they've done with
getting Rock back.
I love, the ability of DJ Reed being healthy. If TA can stay out of the courtroom, I'm excited about him, coming back and playing football. Khalil Dorsey, Nick Whiteside, Roger McCreary, a healthy Ennis Rakestraw. Those things excite me. I think that room could be good, but it's the question marks. If you surround it with question marks, you surround the question marks with Ennis Rakestraw.
Yeah.
The question marks with Terrion Arnold and his legal concerns, and then you get into the safety room. And the question mark's there, too. So.
Well, that's kind of next. You got, your 2 starters. De facto starters are both large question marks for next year.
Question marks.
With Kirby and Brian Branch.
And we're going to get into this pretty much in depth with Brad Holmes' interview, but it still sounds like Kirby Joseph is a question mark.
So right now it's Thomas Harper and Christian Eisen, right?
Yeah, and I like the bringing in Christian Eisen. I like that move in order to replace Brian Branch for a portion of the season, but I don't see on this roster right now a replacement for Kirby Joseph.
Yeah, and there's a draft ahead.
Sure.
And we can debate that later on because it feels like there's about, weak side linebacker, safety, left tackle, weak side or strong side defensive end. Am I missing any?
You continue to look at whether a corner is part of that or not, and there's still some question marks on there.
And the specialists are all accounted for. That position group seems like it's solid. So, kind of transition into the Brad Holmes interview, and what it means for the Lions. He gave one of his most revealing interviews. He's a guy that doesn't do a ton of those interviews, so he sat down with 4 prominent kind of beat writers from the Detroit area, and he was pretty candid about his thoughts, and he tried to paint a picture of guys, this is what I'm working with behind the scenes. You guys are getting antsy, anxious, but this is what I have to deal with behind the scenes, and this is why you're getting what you're getting.
And he did talk about having success in the draft before and having to sign first round caliber players, successful players. And I love that we have that as a problem. But in regards to that, we still have to sign those guys, which we haven't yet. When are we going to extend those guys? Which I question when the timeline should be. You know, you're looking at a running back, you're looking at a interior linebacker, which are both I wouldn't consider elite positions, though we love and we covet them because they're a very integral part of the Detroit Lions. We look at a tight end who's been injured and banged up, and we look at a safety who is coming off an Achilles injury, right? So those are 4 of those 7 guys that we want to extend or bring back, but that are going to demand a price tag.
Yeah, they're not an elite position, premium free agents or players, but they are elite players at their position, and they're going to covet potentially kind of record-setting deals for their positions, right?
Absolutely, and you wonder. I mean, as a developing franchise who is going to hopefully continue to draft well and bring in those type of caliber players year after year, are those guys that you want to continue to re-sign at the most in their position group, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So at some point, you're gonna have to say, like, we're going to have to let some of these guys go, and you're gonna have to make those hard decisions on which of those guys it's got to be.
Well, they have let a lot of guys go, right? And that's part of
Sure.
So Brad Holmes is basically saying, like, he's like, yeah, hey, listen, you saw guys that came into Detroit on 1-year deals, and you saw them leave Detroit on deals with term and with a lot more money. And Brad Holmes is like, all right, yeah, like, I'm getting heat for, like, why didn't you sign those guys? But he's like, shouldn't I be getting credit for getting those guys to Detroit on cheap deals, and then they get paid after they leave here? So that means I basically unearthed the gem, right? And that's what he's saying about, like, his new crop of free agents.
And I hope that he's right. And at this point, we have to live in the world of hopium, right? Because it worked for him last time. It did. And
Multiple times.
We got to give him credit for those Roy Lopez's. We got to give him credit for the Alex Anzalonis. We got to give him credit for the Amik Robertsons.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, we've got to hope, because it's not proven yet, that the next group that come in, the Christian Izines and the Roger McCreary's and the Damone Clarks are going to be that same type. The DJ Wonnums are going to be the same caliber player. And that's to be proven, right? And so we live in a world right now of hopium.
That's not totally fair. So to put another sports analogy on here, I think Brad Holmes has earned the right to be the 10-year NBA veteran that's at the free throw line, that's got a career, 82% free throw shooting, and the game's on the line, and it's not hoping he's going to hit 1 out of 2. Or if he's going to get 10 free throws, you're not hoping he's going to just make 5. Like, he's got a track record of hitting at a pretty high level at this point. So, like, hopium is like, man, like, I don't know. It's a strong word. Brad Holmes has proven it. And he said, like, I'm going out and finding guys that are getting bigger contracts after they cycle through our system, because we are getting really good players that fit our system, and they're getting paid after they leave. And we can't sign them all.
That's fair. And he has found those players.
Okay.
He has found those players. But we are still in a world that this roster right now is arguably not as good as it was last year or the year before. And right now, there are still holes in that roster. Many of which have been brought in free agency, which we all would love to be able to bring in the big name that we all know, but we're not. We're going on the second and third day of that garage sale in order to get the bargain deals, yeah. Right? And we're hoping that those guys pan out.
Brian, the roster is not complete. We're not calling this a worse roster than last year, and last year's team did not make the playoffs on a first place schedule, right? And we're on a fourth place schedule coming into this year. We have a whole draft. Brad also talked about in this interview is like, hey, you know, the tampering period opens, the free agency period opens, and everybody's like, go quick. He's like, well, this is a long process.
Sure.
So I think you have to like reevaluate your patience with the process a little bit.
And that's fair. And when we talked about Brad Holmes being proven, when Brad Holmes is proving the fact that he's going to bring in those guys that we know
that he has proven it. Have we not agreed to that yet?
Yeah. Okay. That he's been able to bring in guys that have been able to come through the Detroit and then move on and get paid.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've hired people in your career, right? And I've hired people in my career where they've proven to show up working on time. Mm-hmm. But every once in a while you get caught in traffic, right? And if you got a track record of 5 years coming to work on time, but twice a year you get caught in a snowstorm or a traffic storm, you're still a proven person, right? You got a big, long track record of it, right? We all know the people that have an excuse every single day on why they're late, right? And that's not Brad Holmes. He's proven the fact that he's showing up to work, he's signing the guys are going to contribute, and we might not be able to afford because we are not in the building phase anymore. We're in the management phase of having a contender and stretching out that window.
And I think this is going to be where Brad Holmes needs to continue to grow because Brad Holmes has not been here before. This is going to be a new for all of us in this process.
He was here last year. He was the year before, so he's been here for a couple of years now.
I would argue that yes, he was here last year. And the year before, we were still in the building phase.
Okay. All right.
And how did we do last year?
Last year we had a tough year.
We had a tough year.
It's a heartbreak year.
My heart is broken.
Yeah.
I don't want that to happen again.
Okay. What we've got on the horizon here is 7 first-round caliber players that they need to re-sign.
That's right. Yep.
And he made a big point of emphasis is like, all right, y'all want me to go out and make a big splashy hire. You want me to burn all this cap. But look at this team, and this team has guys that need term and they need money, and we need cap to be able to afford this core group that they want to pay.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Agree, disagree, kind of moving on from that, right?
Yep.
That explains why we've got to let guys walk.
Yeah.
It explains why we're on a lot of short-term deals, really with the exception of Cade.
And I have to tell you that I am not opposed to the guys that we've let walk, the aged guys. Like, I loved Alex Anzalone, and I hated to see him go, but seeing him go based on the price tag that he wanted made sense to me, right? It made sense.
Yeah.
He wanted longer term in his contract. He wanted a higher price tag, and for me, it didn't make sense to what our team had to offer, and that makes sense to me.
I can't wait to talk about Anzalone a year from now.
Sure.
Right after he gets cut from his longer-term deal, and it's just like, that looks really, really good, right? And with the benefit of hindsight, those are a lot easier conversations.
Sure. And as an Anzalone fan, I hope that doesn't happen to him. I wish him the best. But I am seeing a aged group moving out and a youthful group moving in, and I can appreciate that part in our free agency moves. Now, I'm hoping that we can balance that with a Cade Mays, which we did. And I'm hoping we can balance that with some other vets that are a bit more proven in their process. And I haven't seen the defensive Cade Mays. So who is that guy that we can bring in to solidify some of the defensive downfalls that we had last year?
I think they're going to get a veteran.
I'm hopeful.
I think there's a handful of those guys out there right now, right?
There are, but again, we talk about what Brad has proven, and he hasn't proven that he'll bring that guy in.
He's got restrictions on the cap, but one thing they did address, and one thing that I think, if there was a position last year that told the whole story of the season, it was a very weak offensive line, and they have basically buckshotted the offensive line all offseason.
Brad Holmes has also proven that when he sees a weakness, he'll attack it.
Yeah.
Right? And that when the Lions have a need, he goes out and gets as many of those guys to fill that need as he possibly can. And it just so happened to be interior O-line for this year.
Yep.
Right? So right now, our interior O-line, whether it be Cade Mays or whether it be Juice Scruggs or whether it be Ben Bartch, those are guys that I think can help revitalize and create competition in that interior O-line. I still think we need to address the tackle position. I think we did with Larry Borum to some extent. I think we need one more step in that direction. So
it'll be fun to talk about that after the draft, right? Revisit how we feel now and how we feel later, and with a lot of free agents still out there.
For
still
sure.
on the board. I mean, Taylor Decker's still out there, right?
Like, he is. And I think that he may have overshot his value, and the Lions are still paying him a decent penny in dead cap in order to not be a Lion. So
also, we beat that horse. Montgomery, that was inevitable. Basically, he said, end of the season, talked to the agent, wasn't going to work out.
And Brad also said in his interview that he wasn't going to let him go for nothing, and that he thought of him as a valuable player and that he would love to have had him back, but because the compensation that was offered, that made sense to let him go. So
they get a cheap guy in Pacheco. They got a lot of value out of him. They like Juice Scruggs. They like the draft capital allows you to move up, move down, get guys that can make this team.
In addition, they save. They save cap space.
They save money, yeah, no doubt. So, strategy's been bargain shopping, garage sale shopping on the last day. We talked about that. Mm-hmm. We coined that. We beat that down. If anybody else borrows that was us right here crushing that. A lot of short-term deals, veteran minimum deals, filling gaps, not making big headlines, and that's okay because, big headlines, those are the guys in like 1.5 years, you're just like, how do I get this guy off my cap hit, and it's hard to do. You look at the Saints. You look at some of those teams that just have been in cap hell for a long time,
and that's fair. And I don't want to live there, but I also want to be able to put the money that we're saving with all these value picks into something that's going to push us over the edge.
Yep, the edge. Yeah, you keep talking about that. We'll get over the edge. Draft philosophy. Maybe some of these guys will push you over the edge, but basically, Brad's just like, it's best player available all the time.
And I would argue in this particular draft right now, with where we're sitting in free agency and our roster that we have holes in, that it better be in two positions to lead us off in the first two picks.
What two positions, Brian?
You know those two positions.
I want you to say it out loud because I'm going to give you...
Offensive tackle and defensive end.
So Caleb Downs falls to the Lions at their pick at a ball-hawking safety, Kirby Joseph replacement. Are you passing on that?
I can't, but it still forces us to have a huge hole at those two positions.
Yeah, with a ton more draft capital, right? So I think if they get a guy that falls to them, you jump on that, right? Kyle Hamilton to the Ravens. Ravens didn't have a need at safety. Best player fell to them. It looks great after 5 years.
So I'm going to argue here.
Okay.
So just a second.
All right, sure.
Because
I'll kick back.
Okay, because the edge position, if you look at past drafts, if you don't get a guy higher in the draft, his value does not seem nearly as good. His production does not seem nearly as good when you get him lower in the draft. It doesn't. It's statistically showing, and we can dive into numbers, and maybe next pod I will.
Next pod we will.
We will. You're not going to see nearly the value in lower in the draft. I mean, right now we got a Ahmed Hassanin later in the draft, and we haven't seen him play a snap yet. And hopefully he is a contributor. But even as a second round pick, a Josh Paschal, where is he right now? He's an edge interior guy. Where is he on our roster? He's not.
Where is Payton Turner right now?
he is on a roster, but a big old question mark, isn't he?
He
was a first round.
So
what I'm saying is, if you don't get an edge,
you just
draft.
ran into a counter argument there, on your own.
If you don't get a draft, higher in the draft.
Who'd you fall in love with last year, and where'd he go, and what happened?
Shamar Stewart. My draft love was Shamar Stewart.
Okay.
And he went higher in the draft, and has he panned out? The higher you go, the more likely he is going to hit.
Has he panned out so far?
He is not.
No, he's not. So it doesn't always work that way, Brian. The interview is not about the hype. It's about the reality. It's about the Lions. It's about managing a top-heavy, expensive roster, doubling down on the offensive line. We need to build out this defensive core. I think next week's pod is going to be the most – I think we are going to be at each other's wits next week with drafts, because I think there's going to be a lot of – potential. We're going to really talk about those 10 guys that could be falling to the Lions, or they're going to be after the Lions pick, and what do we got? So, sure. Holmes is the captain of my ship. I'm more than confident with him.
And he said a lot of good things there too. I mean, we understand that we're under cap restrictions. We understand that we need to live in this bargain area, and we need to look at all these players both vertically as well as horizontally in order to make sure that there's value in the guys that we got, such as a Cade Mays versus a Linderbaum. And those all make sense to me. But there's got to be a balance to that too. Even though we're saving money, we have to use the money we've saved towards guys that are going to, I continue to say it, push us over the edge. Because I want us to be in the playoffs. I want us to win playoff games. And I want us to compete for Super Bowls. I don't want us to live in a 9-8 world where we're just on the outside looking in. And I hope that that's an anomaly for this year versus what it is going to be for years to come. So.
Yeah, and he talked a lot about like the gap in pay between like, he didn't mention names, I think, but like, he talked about Lindenbaum, and then sure. He talked about the number one guy and what he got, and the number two guy, and the number three guy, and he didn't feel like there was a big gap between those three guys. And I'll go back. We don't have new vehicles, and I hate buying cars, and you're not a big new vehicle guy.
Nope.
But about a decade ago, I got Steph a new car, my wife a new car, and we're looking at a small, mid-sized SUV, and we settled on a Volkswagen Touareg. They don't even make them anymore, but good car. A Volkswagen Touareg is built on a Porsche Cayenne chassis with the same motor minus a turbocharger. Pretty much is a Porsche Cayenne, and then you look at the trim package, and it's pretty light, right? The Porsche Cayenne's got all the metal and all the nice things, but you're pretty much getting the nuts and bolts without like the prettiness of the Porsche Cayenne. And what we bought our car for was I would say a sixth of the cost of what you'd go out and buy a Porsche Cayenne for. But when you look at them stacked up, if you took the names off of them, they're pretty similar. But you paid a lot more for a Linderbaum than you do a Cade Mays, and that's kind of what he was talking about. Is like we got basically 98% of that guy for 1/6 of the price.
I definitely agree with the 1/6, and I hope that we get the 98%. I really do. I think Cade Mays is somebody that I advocated for as well as somebody that fit the Lions, that is going to be an improvement over Graham Glasgow, that is going to be able to anchor that.
You were one of the first that talked about him. Yeah,
I like that pick, and we got him for a cost-effective deal. We got him for a 3-year, but really is it? I mean, the contract is interesting because I think it's more of like a 2-year with the ability to extend or cut after that second year. So it's a very good deal for the Lions to take a chance on a guy that's ascending.
And the Lions have that control for the third year, right?
Right. And I think it's interesting to a guy that's ascending. I'm just hoping that obviously we have really good coaches. I hope he continues to ascend.
Yeah.
I hope that he continues to grow, and he is going to be the guy that we want him to be. But it's still reliant a little bit, and we have to continue in this offseason live in that hopium world. But I just want us to continue to grow on both sides of the football because our defense wasn't good enough, and we still have gaps, and we need to grow in those areas too. So,
all right.
That's it.
Horse is beat.
Boom.
Bill.
All right.
What's up with Bill? Does he need some hopium?
Yeah. He needs some hopium because Bill's idea that one, he's not a Brad Holmes fan. He doesn't believe in him. He doesn't believe he's doing what's best for the Lions. He believes that he's actually a detriment to the Lions and their growth. So that's where he lives. He is believing that the Lions should focus on some guys as a D end, that guys that can contribute, guys like Espinaza, Cam Jordan, Clowney, some names that they can bring in order to put across from Hutch and fill some roles there. Believes that they need to bring in guys in the interior as well, guys like our bigger names and demand a bigger contract like Reeder or Calais Campbell. Those are guys that are going to have a hit when it comes to the price tag. So not somebody that you're gonna get on day 2 or day 3 of the garage sale, but guys that are holding out for still day 1 money.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Along the lines, he also has his draft perspective and on how he wants to approach it. Still thinks that the Penn State guard is the guy that would work best for the O-line and really put us back into the O-line of the old days with Kevin Zeitler and Frank Ragnow.
Zeitler's still out there, isn't he?
Yeah, I'd love my Zeitler back. That would make me happy. So anyway, so he does feel like he build it in the trenches and then go off from there. So
yeah, all right. Who's the guy he wants?
He
in the draft.
He wants that Penn State offensive lineman. What is it? Is it Vega?
Yeah. They got a Penn State offensive lineman that was drafted in the 2nd round, and Juice Scruggs just a couple of years ago, right? So
Fair. Okay.
That's interesting. So let's kick it over to just kind of Michigan sports. Let's talk. Tigers opening day just happened today.
Love it.
We're recording this Thursday. It's 11:03. Kevin McGonigal, Hall of Famer.
Oh, wow. Maybe jumping the gun there. Okay?
Yeah.
Though, listen, man, the dude.
He raked 2 doubles, couple RBIs,
4 for 5. The
4
guy,
for 5.
One of those was infield base hit, but we'll take it, right?
4 for 5.
We'll
yeah,
take it. He
had 5 good at bats.
He was quality at bats. He sees the ball well. He's not getting cheated, and those first 2 at bats, he crushed the ball.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about he started off 6th in the order. He kind of seems like a 3-hole hitter to me.
Do you think that he is going to be able to take some of the pressure off the Riley Greens and the Spencer Torkelsons of the world?
Man, he will protect a Riley Green. You put him
great?
right behind a Riley Green, and you got to pitch to Riley Green.
Do you
got to
put
pitch
Riley Green behind him, or do you put him behind Riley Green?
Well, I mean, honestly, Riley's the veteran, right? So
he is, but
you put more pressure on Riley than you put on a Torkelson. Maybe you protect the Torkelson. I don't know.
I do think that Riley Green still has that swing and miss, bug in him that he needs to continue to try to shake off. But he also has the 30-plus home runs in him that he's going to be leading the team. So
yeah, we're fired up.
Yeah,
it's hard to watch the Tigers. They switch the app every year. Man, I'm just trying to figure that out.
Sports Network now. What do you got?
Through MLBTV.com. Yeah. Bring back cable. Just let me have one device where I can get all the stuff on it. It's insane. So Pistons, obviously, Cade Cunningham's hurt, coming back potentially sooner than people think.
Yeah, collapsed lung, but at the same time, it doesn't sound nearly as detrimental as it could be. So I feel like he's going to be back, and we're going to be. We're still playing well even without him.
Yeah, playing solid. Yeah. Your Spartans, your Wolverines, both in the Sweet 16, play tomorrow night. If you're listening to this, it's probably already played or playing in a little bit. Big time, man. Like the Big Ten's really representing.
Yes.
Purdue won today. Iowa won today. So we got 2 more teams to the Elite Eight. It's pretty wild. Red Wings. The March of Sadness is continuing. Big game Friday night. It's not must win, but
might as well be.
You need to start winning these games.
You got to win these games. These are the games that you need to start putting pressure on your team and win, so that going into a playoff, you know what it feels like. This is like, because playoff hockey does not start in a couple of weeks. It starts right now. So
it really should have started beginning of March, right? Because the Wings were in, and they haven't played that style of hockey where you're playing a little bit desperate. So with all that being said, I think next week's episode is a definite. We're going to set the tone for the draft. We're really diving into the Detroit Lions draft. We're going to mock draft some stuff coming up to it, and then we're going to debate back and forth on, a lot of different potential guys, maybe 10, 15 guys.
Yeah.
And you and I are falling on a lot of different sides of this ledger. So I think it's going to be an interesting conversation. And usually this is a more fun conversation when we're disagreeing with each other.
And it seems like you like it more too. So
yeah. So
we'll go with it.
Offseason's still heating up, man. Free agencies, there's a lot of time. There's a lot of time to sign Epineza. There's a lot of time to sign a veteran guy, but the draft is, as a Lions fan, it's been my Super Bowl for 20 years.
And I think it's Brad Holmes' Super Bowl as well.
Goodness gracious. Hey, I'm with Brad. I'll get a Brad Holmes tattoo if they win the Super Bowl.
Hold on. You heard it. You heard it here.
I have no tattoos. But follow, subscribe, listen. Argue with us. Let us know how you feel right here. Stay gritty, go Lions. Anything else you got to say?
Love you guys.
Let's go. See you next week.